Right guys, welcome to a brand new video. Today I am going to be going on the next instalment of the Bewdley Ghost Walk video. About a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I did a video around Bewdley explaining some of the haunted locations that I visited, a bit about the history. If you haven't already seen that video, go and check it out. I'm going to leave a link up here. Click that link, watch the video. This is going to be the part 2. The next instalment, and as you can see, I've started the journey on the scenic route, but I've also started it in the daytime, which is very unlike me, very unlike us to go and do a daytime explorer or daytime investigation. The reason for that is because this location, I've only got access to it during the day, daylight hours, so it's one of the most well-known buildings in Bewdley. And it's basically where all the history lies. So where I'm heading is the Bewdley Museum. A very fascinating location with a lot of history inside and even a few ghost stories as well. This is going to be the only video that I do, the only segment of this video that I do during the daytime. What I'm going to do, hopefully weather permitting tonight, the weather will hold off, and if that's the case, I will be back out later tonight and I will be retelling the rest of the stories. It's actually quite interesting I've come this way as well, because as you can see, I'm at the Severn Valley line. Now I actually started the last video at the Severn Valley line. Really have to watch my footing because it's just steps and stones all the way down here. Now, I didn't actually start it in this particular section of the railway last time. I started it a bit further down. However, if I can get in. It's very hard to do this one-handed. However, we are very close to the location. Well, the location of the ghost train that we've discussed already in part 1 is actually going to be further up in that direction. If you continue going in that direction, you get to the Northwood Lane area of the Severn Valley. That will be the next stop up there. And that is the actual precise location of where the ghost train was seen. That was where, I say it was seen as well, that's where the tracks were heard rumbling, the sound of a train passing was experienced, and that was at 2:30 in the morning by, I think it was a group of 4 friends. They all went up there for the night and waited for the ghost train, and that's what they saw. So further in that direction, I mean, perhaps if that is something of interest to some of you guys, maybe in the next video we'll shoot up there and have a look. But let us know if that's something you actually want to see. But yes, for now I'm going to continue the walk and I'll be in the museum very shortly, so I'll see you guys there. It's alright. Right, so it's currently getting barked at by a dog. But here I am in the museum now. So around me are lots of different little areas where little shops and little marketplaces would have been a long time ago. So this was once one of the old prison cells. As you can see, a pair of shoes. The original jail bed, which once had a stone frame and an elm top, so it doesn't exactly sound very comfortable, does it? Here you go, let's try this. So, press the button to hear children from Red Star Productions talk about crimes of the 19th century. So in the prison cell here, a lot of the crimes that you could actually get locked up for were, some of them, pretty trivial. So I'm going to press the button and let's have a listen to see what sort of crimes would you get locked up for.
Hello, I'm James. You'll never guess what happened to me. I was playing marbles and got put in the stocks. Yes, all night. Me and Sam were in the church last Sunday, bored stiff because the vicar was droning on about being righteous or something, when I felt in my pocket and I'd got marbles on me. I nudged Sam and we crept outside, trying really hard not to make a sound. Well, we just got started. Actually, I was just about to win one of Sam's special marbles when the vicar came rushing out of church and grabbed us both by the ear. He was furious. "How dare you play marbles during my sermon," he shouted, and he pulled so hard on our ears we thought they'd come off. We were dragged to William Turton's house. He lives near the church and he's a magistrate. William Turton said we should be put in the stocks. We couldn't believe it. We're only playing marbles. We were freezing cold and crying our eyes out. No one came. Then it started to snow. Oh no, at last someone was coming. Free at last, but no such luck. The vicar had only sent us a blanket to stop us freezing. We were there all night, the longest night ever. One thing for sure, we won't ever play marbles in the churchyard ever again.
All that over a game of marbles.
Hello, my name's Fred. I'm going to tell you about how me and my mate Arthur got locked in these cells here all night. It all happened because we were hungry, starving in fact. My dad couldn't get much work and neither could Arthur's. And when our dads did have money, they went and spent it down the pub. Our mums went mad. There were always rows going on. So there we were, walking across the wire hill fields to school, when we found all these potatoes just lying there, loads of them. So what did we do? We collected a pile, not all of them, put them in a sack we found and hid them in the hedge so we could collect them on our way home after school. Our mums would be so pleased with us and all our brothers and sisters. We'd have food. What we didn't know was we were being watched. This mean old lady was watching us and she went and told the police. So when we came back to pick up our tatties, we were grabbed by angry policemen and taken away and locked in these cells. I'll never forget it. It was so unfair. It was dark and there were mice and cockroaches running over us. We were so frightened and the moon made shadows which looked like ghosts. I've never been so scared. The policeman told Mum he hoped it would set us on the straight and narrow path for life. Too right. We'll never do it again. We'd rather starve than go back in those cells.
So for those crimes that are actually just mentioned on that tape, that seems like a pretty severe punishment for those children, especially of the ages they were, to be sent here, locked up for a night, or even in the stocks, in the snow. I mean, that's pretty severe. So I'll walk into the next one. The other cells are just here. So here's some information about Bewdley Town lockups. So these cells or lockups were built in 1802 and were used until 1882. Before the jail, the pillory stocks were located on the south side where St Anne's Church now stands. Lawbreakers were placed in stocks or publicly flogged and would be a spectacle for bystanders. Crazy. And here's a gory story from in April of 1762. The body of a child about 7 years old was found in a wire forest with her throat cut and many marks of violence on her body. William Buckley was arrested in Birmingham, charged and found guilty of the murder of his daughter. He was executed and his body was taken and hanged into chains in the forest where the child was found. Crazy. There's a story there of the two boys who were caught playing marbles. The two jail cells were condemned as being unfit for purpose. And I can't think when it was again, what year it was that it happened. Obviously, the conditions in the cells weren't the best. The bed looks pretty nasty. That's going to hurt to sleep on. The reason I've brought you here is there have been some reports of strange activity in and around the museum all over. The actual area I wanted to take you today is actually closed on the day that I've come. However, it is open on I think the only day I can access it now is a Sunday, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to revisit this place. There is meant to be a lot of reported activity in this location. The location that I've heard the most activity about is actually the Brass Foundry, which at the moment is closed due to winter opening hours, so that's timed pretty poorly. But hopefully I'll be able to come back in a few days and I will try and get into the Foundry. This place used to at least do organised ghost hunts as an event where you could join on. So there is meant to be a lot of activity in the museum. There is something I haven't actually mentioned, which I've totally forgotten about, but it's the buildings above the museum. So basically as you walk through the very first building, you've got the old town hall. It's actually the upstairs buildings which apparently have a lot of reported activity. I believe that included the likes of things moving, voices being heard. I actually knew one of the cleaners who used to work here and clean on a daily basis. And I don't know whether it was another cleaner or not who used to work with her, or somebody else that used to work in one of the officey buildings, but she used to tell me the stories that used to happen and the sightings that things would go missing or strange things would happen. There would be a lot of noises that would be heard, a lot of voices, objects would be moved, and that's all in the upstairs area of this museum. Now that is interesting because a bit later when I come back, there is a building just next door that I'm going to tell you about, which I know a few stories of as well, and it seems like the two could possibly be linked. So without further ado, I will obviously try and come back to the Foundry. If I'm unable to get into the Foundry, then I will go straight to the next location, which will be tonight with the building next door. So yeah, hopefully it'll be the Foundry day. Okay guys, I'll catch you soon. We're walking up to the Foundry now. Managed to get in today, and we'll see if I can communicate with the ghost of the Foundry worker that's meant to reside in here. So let's have a look. I'm now in what is known as the Foundry. There's a little bit of information there to do with the Foundry. So Christopher Banks, who came to Bewdley in 1697, was the town's most famous pewterer and brass founder. This foundry has been associated with several generations of his family who continued the brass founding business. Banks's great-grandson, Christopher Pigott Banks, was the mayor of Bewdley in 1853 and 1854. So John Smith bought the foundry in 1884 when it became known as G.T. Smith & Son. So this foundry, as I've just read at the bottom, closed in 1964. So as I was saying a few days ago, when I came and I couldn't access here, obviously today I've been more fortunate. And what I was saying is Bewdley Museum used to do paranormal nights. I'm not sure if they still do paranormal investigations or not. Obviously with COVID times, I'm not sure if it's going ahead. And I haven't actually been on one, so I can't 100% confirm this with my own eyes. But the thing that I have heard the most is that the Foundry is supposedly the hotspot area of Bewdley Museum. This is the location of the museum that is apparently the most haunted, and this is where all the activity happens. Now, the stories that I've heard about the Foundry are that this Foundry is haunted by an older gentleman who I assume possibly once worked here. Perhaps one of the names that we've just said on the plaque over there, I'm not too sure. And he is meant to appear to visitors, and basically when he does appear, he is in that much of a solid form that visitors to the museum, they actually think he's a real person, and they end up going to the reception to talk about the Foundry to the staff there. And when they do mention the Foundry, they mention that they really liked the volunteer who was in full costume. They said how authentic it looks and, you know, how good he looks. And that's when the staff at the museum basically break it to them and say, there's nobody working in the Foundry. So who have they seen in period clothing working in the Foundry? And as I was saying, he looks that much of a solid person they actually think he's real. So it's not like... There's a bit more information there. Oh, Bewdley Brass Foundry. So it's not like a haunting which is scaring people as such, at least during the day. Thought I heard a voice or something. No. Couldn't have been a voice, but I heard something in my ear. Probably psychological, because I'm just, you know, talking amongst myself, and this is when it happens. And if something's going to happen, it's going to happen when I'm talking. As you can see, some of the other bits and pieces in this room. So yeah, so it's not meant to be like a haunting that scares people. It's not meant to make people jump. They just assume there's a real person in here, and that's it, I think. I don't know whether they actually interact with him or not. I don't know whether there's any sort of intelligent conversation that happens between the two people. I've come here today really hoping to bump into the foundry worker. But nothing as of yet. So, is Christopher Banks or any family member associated with Christopher? Are you here with me? If you are, can you make a sign? Just show me. Could you perhaps appear in front of me? And that goes for not just Christopher Banks, but any family member, any descendant from the family who once worked here. If this was your foundry, can you please show yourself or do something to... Yeah, I heard a noise. Right, I just heard a noise. That made me jump. Thank you if that was you. You know, I always remember coming here as a kid in the museum. And I remember always feeling quite creeped out in the foundry. No idea why. Perhaps it's just how creepy it looks in here. I'll have another look in here, because I think that's where I heard the noise, I've got to be honest. Is there anyone in this room? I've come to see the foundry worker. Where are you? William Stokes. I feel like doing a bit of a Nathan here and doing a bit of a calling out of the old names, like we did at the German cemetery in Cannock Chase, and seeing who comes through. William Stokes, are you here? John Smith. Stevenson Brothers. H.J. Exley. So nothing for any of those names, no sign. The only thing earlier was a tap for a member of the Banks family, or perhaps Christopher Banks himself, I don't know. So apparently during the evening investigations, when the museum do their private events, this is the most active place. Until we are able to book onto one of those events and perhaps try it out for ourselves, we can't confirm that. But I do find the story of the foundry pretty interesting. I've got to be honest, to see an apparition so lifelike. Wow, I mean, it's the ghost hunter's dream, isn't it, really? I've come here today with the intention of doing so. but unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be successful so far. So Christopher Banks, or any member of the Banks family. I heard a tap earlier. If that was you, thank you so much. But I'm going to leave this little room area now. So I'm just giving you an opportunity before I do. If you want to show yourself to me or say anything before I go, can you please do so now for me? I'd be very grateful. Come here to talk to you. Okay. Don't think I'm going to get anything else. So I'm going to leave this bit of the foundry. Right, so that's my time done here at the museum. So the next part of the video that you're going to see will be the stories at night time, and I will be very close by retelling the next story tonight. So I will catch you guys very shortly. Right guys, so I am back outside the museum, this time in the darkness, and continuing tonight's video with just the building next door, which is currently a charity shop. But it's a very old building, as you can see. And at one point this used to be the old post box, I believe it was called. And something really cool about this, and I don't know whether this is why there is paranormal activity happening in the museum as well, especially the upper areas up there. You can see that it's kind of linked next to the, the buildings are obviously linked next to each other. I believe the one particular worker opened up in the morning, and when they did, they opened and shut the door behind them, and it sounded like somebody walked in behind them. So they obviously went to check it out basically and see what happened. And when they went to double check and did a double take, there was nobody there. So obviously that frightened them quite a lot. But there isn't just one story. There are other stories as well that happen here. There was another member of staff, and I think it might have been a cleaner, but I'm not 100% sure. The cleaner was in there and audibly heard somebody very clearly say hello to them. Crystal clear. And that unnerved them that much, they quit the job. So, as you can imagine, when you think you're in there by yourself, cleaning, and you hear the voice of somebody say hello to you, who knows? Obviously, that's going to be enough to make you want to leave your job, isn't it? Really. Another story that I heard about this location is very early in the morning, the smell of somebody cooking toast, which is quite an unusual smell to come across and quite an unusual thing to have happen, especially when you're in there on your own. But the strange thing about that is that, one, there was nobody up there making toast, and two, there wasn't a toaster to make toast with in the first place. So it had a very weird smell coming from the kitchen area, as if somebody was cooking, yet there was nobody there. So phantom smells, disembodied voices, and it makes you wonder whether a very small distance away, back at the Bewdley Museum, whether some of that activity is perhaps linked as these buildings next to each other. So are the areas of the upstairs of the museum, do they have strange things going on as well because of the strange things that happen in the top of that building? Who knows? Now I've got one very last story to tell you in the town. As you can see, they've got the Christmas decorations up now, and today is Sunday the 28th of November. And I never knew about a story of this church, but I've recently found one out. There is a phantom funeral procession that apparently occurs here at midnight on the very last Sunday of November. Right guys, as you can see, I am now at the next location of tonight's video, which is number 64 High Street. Now what's so special about number 64 is that this used to be an old workhouse. A house that housed, at one point, 80 paupers. So I believe this building was actually built in 1790. Workhouses didn't typically have very good living conditions and very good conditions generally, but in this instance they did. When one of the workers ended up sick, they would be treated to ale and cake from the doctor. The doctor's bills would be paid for, and if they died whilst in the workhouse, their funeral, coffin and coffin bearers were also all paid for. So the workhouse in Bewdley looked after the workers quite a lot. There are two ghost stories linked to this building. The first one is of a very small boy who is seen dressed in period clothing, and he is seen just round the side of this building, which I'm not going to go too far up because I don't want to draw too much attention to myself at the moment, but he is seen playing around on this yard. But not just there. The young boy is also seen sat on this step here. So the young boy is seen playing around, sitting on the steps. But there is one other ghost story here. It's actually an old lady. And the old lady ghost apparently looks out of one of the windows on the bottom floor. And I believe it's this right-hand window here. And apparently that happens at a particular time in the day, and it's in the early hours of the morning. Now, legend has it that the reason why she is looking out of the window is actually for the morning milk delivery. Whether that's the case, who knows? Maybe she is in spirit, still waiting for the milk delivery. Or is it an intelligent haunting? And could she be looking out for the small boy, either sat on the step or playing around on the yard? So those are the two ghost stories related to the workhouse. Quite an interesting place. Makes you wonder what lives in there. Right, so I'm going to head to the next location now, guys. Obviously I don't want to hang around here too long with lights on looking at an abandoned building, so I'm going to move on. Right guys, so we are at the final location for tonight. The batteries in the illuminator have now died, so I've had to bring you to the last location via torchlight, so the lighting might not be the best on the screen. And I'm also trying to talk quite quietly because I'm in a very small alleyway now, and there's lots of houses nearby, so I don't want to be a disturbance. But I am at a place called Pewterers Alley. Now, this is one of the very first places in Bewdley that I ever heard was haunted. I was always told that this alleyway was haunted by my mum when I was a small kid, and I can't really remember the story why. It was that long ago that I was told it and I was that young. But not only could I not remember the original reasons why it was haunted, but it's not really a location where you hear many other people discuss in Bewdley. However, doing some research into these videos, I found that there were a few people that had stories about Pewterers Alley, and so it kind of jogged my memory a little bit from the stories she once told me, and I'm going to tell you them very quickly now before my phone battery runs out as well. But basically, as I'm walking further down Pewterers Alley towards the river, we come to this house on our left. Okay, you can't read that, and I'm not going to shine any more light into the house because it looks a bit dodgy. But that house is called the Nunneries. Perhaps it's to do with the name of the place. But the ghost sighting in Pewterers Alley is that of a brown lady, potentially a nun, is seen walking through the alleyway I am now stood in. Usually late at night or first thing early in the morning. And I don't think it's a very common sighting. However, it doesn't just stand in the alleyway and walk through the alleyway. People who have lived within the alleyway itself, in different houses very close by to the nunneries that I've just showed you, or attempted to show you, have also reported seeing a brown lady walking through their house. And she seems quite... I don't think it's like an intelligent spirit. I think it's more of a residual haunting. She seems to just wander through and then, you know, she minds her own business. She doesn't really interact or do anything. The people that have reported seeing her don't get a nasty vibe or a negative vibe. So, I don't know. But I do recall the story now of my mum telling me that there used to be a figure that was seen down the alleyway. And I think that's quite creepy, really, especially this time of night. I mean, the only other people you're going to bump into, really, are perhaps those that come back from the pub. But at the minute, there's nobody around. And you never know, I might bump into the brown lady. So other things I've been told, very briefly, about the history of Pewterers Alley. Apparently there was, in some form, and I don't know to what degree or level, but there was black magic and witchcraft at least practiced here in the past at some point. I don't know how severely. Perhaps that's a reason why there is an apparition of a brown lady. I don't really know. It's a creepy little alleyway though, especially by nightfall. Okay, so I'm going to move on, because I don't really have much else to say at Pewterers Alley at the moment. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Okay guys, so that wraps up the second part of the Bewdley Ghost Walk. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video guys, could you please give it a like, give us a thumbs up, it always helps us out. Also don't forget to leave us a comment in the box below. Let us know what your thoughts on this video were. Let us know if you live in Bewdley, and let us know if you have any stories of your own if you're in the local area, because we'd love to hear them. Not only that, but if you would like to see a part 3, let us know, again, in the description box below. There are many other places around town. Obviously some places are more accessible than others, but if you guys are enjoying the series and you want to see a next part, then yeah, let us know and I will do my best to do that for you very soon. So until next time guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe, and until next time, keep seeking the truth.